In our culture, a woman is seen to become complete when she becomes a mother. That's the story we're told. In our families, in our media, in our films, and even in the way people look at us after a certain age. But what if you don't want kids? Not because you're broken or selfish or chasing a career, but just because it's not your path. Even today, that choice comes with silence, with stigma, and with a kind of loneliness, because no one really prepared us for the possibility that we might not want children. Hi, I'm Marina, and welcome to my corner of the internet. If you're new here, I dive deep into the complexities of South Asian identity, culture, immigration, history, art, and the nuances that shape our lives. Whether it's navigating the weight of societal expectations, exploring personal journeys, or breaking down stereotypes, I aim to create a space where we can have open, honest conversations. Today we're talking about something that's not just close to my heart, but also at the intersection of so many cultural conversations: the choice to be child-free. In our cultures, the path to motherhood is often what we're expected to follow. But what happens when that path doesn't feel like it's yours? Now, before we dive in, I want to acknowledge that this conversation about choosing to be child-free is deeply personal, and it may bring up a range of emotions for some people. For anyone who's facing challenges with fertility or has a different relationship to parenthood, I want to recognize that this discussion may not resonate in the same way. This is just one perspective, and I truly believe that every path to womanhood deserves respect and understanding. The world is changing, but not evenly. Globally, more and more women are choosing not to have children. And this isn't just a niche trend, it's a shift, a quiet revolution. A recent Pew Research study showed that in the US, fertility reached a record low in 2023. Research by Michigan State University found that percentage of non-parents in the US who never want children has doubled in the last 20 years, rising from 14% in 2002 to 29% in 2023. Other Western countries like UK, Canada, and Australia are showing similar trends, with declining fertility rates and increasing openness around choosing to be child-free. In Japan and South Korea, marriage and fertility rates have plummeted. Women are increasingly choosing to delay marriage or forego childbirth altogether. Across these countries, the reasons are varied: personal freedom, cost of living, climate anxiety, prioritizing mental and physical health, or simply not feeling the desire. But while fertility rates are declining globally, South Asia tells a more complicated story. Particularly in urban centers, childbearing is being delayed, and more women are beginning to question traditional expectations. But voluntary childfreeness still remains rare and less talked about. Because in South Asia, the pressure to have children is not just cultural, it's social, spiritual, and even nationalistic. It's written into the expectations of marriage, the idea of respectability, and even the very architecture of family and nationhood. Religious and spiritual traditions sanctify the role of the mother. She is the giver, the nurturer, the one through whom life itself flows. Here, motherhood isn't a personal choice. It's a duty, a milestone, a marker of success. To be child-free in this context isn't just a matter of making a different choice. It is to decline a role that has long defined womanhood itself. And that role is sacred. It is celebrated. And for many women, it is a source of profound love and meaning. But what happens when a woman doesn't see herself in it? When motherhood isn't something she longs for but feels the need to explain herself out of? In many South Asian cultures, the pressure to conform to traditional expectations is intense, particularly for women. You're questioned repeatedly by relatives, colleagues, friends, neighbors about your plans for marriage and then children, with the assumption that childbearing is inevitable. And we see examples of this play out in our media. Take Seema Patel in Just Like That. She is a single, child-free woman in her 50s and is portrayed as independent and successful, but still negotiating her Indian family's expectations. Her choice to live unmarried and be child-free wins out, but the show does highlight her guilt and internal conflict with these decisions. Carrie Bradshaw, by contrast, also chooses to be child-free, but she isn't weighed down by the same cultural guilt. It is this juxtaposition that shows how South Asian women face a unique kind of emotional labor. South Asian films have historically glorified motherhood. Mothers are portrayed as selfless, loving, and central to the family and nation's moral fabric. In a 2022 essay about a study of motherhood in Bollywood films, Rituparna Das writes, "When we are talking about the cultural context of India, Motherhood has a much deeper significance than its surface meaning. Even before the country could free itself from the clutches of colonization, it had tried to give a concrete shape to the abstract idea of nationhood in the imaginary figure of Bharat Mata or Mother India. This idea of motherhood tied to nationhood was profound, and it became the basis of the 1957 film Mother India, which pretty much defined the role of motherhood in Bollywood, that comprises of sacrifice, selfless love, and infinite tolerance. Films reinforce the idea that a woman's life is incomplete without children, and childless women are frequently depicted as desperate, unhappy, or objects of pity. Bangladeshi cinema shows similar patterns. Scholar Marzia Rehman notes how childless women are portrayed as tragic or abandoned, while motherhood is tied to patriotic idealism. South Asian media rarely depicts voluntary childfreeness as a central theme. When women are shown without children, it is often involuntary, and the story is usually framed around fixing it. There seems to be no language about peaceful and chosen childfreeness. So in the absence of representation, what happens when someone dares to say, "I don't want children"? I think now might be a good time to share my personal story. See, for a long time I thought that I would have children, because it's what I had seen, what I had been told, and I never really thought to question it. I went to uni, got married, and spent years thinking that kids were just a later chapter in my life. I just kept telling myself I'm not ready yet. But a few years ago, I finally gave it some real thought. And what I found surprised me. It wasn't that I wasn't ready. It was that I didn't have a desire at all. I realized that it had never really been there. I had absorbed the expectations so deeply that I never even paused to ask myself if that's something I wanted. And once I did, I had a real moment of clarity and a real sense of peacefulness with my decision. But the questions didn't stop. And I don't expect they will. And often they come from a place of concern. People often ask, but who's gonna look after you when you're older? Or what if you'll regret it later? Or that you're running out of time? The biological clock is never too far from the conversation. It is offered both as a warning and a countdown, urging women to always decide before it's too late, even if they're still unsure or still figuring it out. And then there are responses which I think are a genre of their own. They're almost like a dismissal, or as if it's like a temporary misunderstanding. Something like, "Oh, you're gonna change your mind. This is just a phase. Talk to me when you're older." As if getting older is guaranteed to flip some kind of internal baby switch. It's like people don't know how to react, except for say all the things they were supposed to say. Not out of malice, just habit. Inherited scripts passed down like wedding saris or pressure cookers. But what if we wrote a different script? What I realized through reflecting on this topic and through my personal experiences is that we don't really have a cultural grammar for being child-free by choice. There's no, "Oh, that's so great, what drew you to that decision?" There's just a pause, and then a deflection, and then a wish for some kind of divine intervention. So we laugh, because it's easier than explaining again and again that this isn't confusion or rebellion or trauma. It's just a choice, a matter of clarity to choose my own path. And that's where I think the real discomfort lies. Not in the choice itself, but in the fact that someone could make it peacefully. The point isn't to say one path is better than the other. It is to say that there are many ways to live a life full of depth, care, spirituality, and legacy. And maybe the real work for South Asian families, communities, and cultures is to not just celebrate one version of womanhood, but to make space for all of them. These are just my thoughts, but I'd love to hear yours. Are you navigating these questions too? Do you feel like you've had the space to choose and be supported in your decisions? What kinds of conversations are happening in your family and community and your mind? I'd love to hear them. Drop a comment, share your story, or just tell me what this topic brought up for you. Let's continue the conversation. If you like this video and want to see other deep dives on similar topics, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, and also share your thoughts and feedback in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Until next time, take care.